All right, so welcome everyone to another exciting episode of our launch hour webinar. We hold this every Thursday by 1 p.m. and we have a conversation around a topic of interest to professionals in the built environment and especially facility managers. And in many of our sessions, they are beneficial to every working class individual. Okay. My name is Paul Erubami. I'm the MD CEO of Max-Migold Limited, and it's my pleasure to be the main anchor on this series. Every now and then we have other, erudites, experienced facilitators, coming to take us on a session of the lunch hour. And every of our sessions, they are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as other social media platforms. What this means is that you can always visit our channels across this platform to, tap on the link or just watch the videos of all our previous sessions. Okay. Before I get into the topic of today's conversation, I'd like to just say finally, our FMMC 24 is finally here. On Monday, the 12th of May, we'll be rolling out the start of the virtual classes. So, and then on Saturday will be the first day of classes for those on the physical class. But the session we have on Monday, the 12th, is actually an orientation session and it's open for everyone. So whether you're enrolled in the program or not, you will get the link to join the Monday evening 5 p.m. Virtual session, where we talk about the program, ask questions about how it runs, and we just let everyone know that we will be admitting throughout the month of May. So between now and the last day of the month of May, admission will continue to the program. We have a learning management portal where the entire training is conducted. All of our materials, assessments, tests, even the final exams are all in that portal. So as soon as you make your payments, anytime you do, you have access to the full course in the LMS portal, which is at facility management courses.com.ng. Okay? Or portal.facility management courses.com.ng. That's the portal where all our learnings are. We have other training courses. We have courses in operations management. We have courses in maintenance management, strategic facility management. We have courses in health and safety, project management, and then we have workshop, procurement, technology, BIM, and so on and so forth. And then we have a series of 150 plus courses that we have on our learning management system at portal.facilityManagementCourses.com.ng. You'll find courses in emotional intelligence and leadership, in sales and marketing, in customer service, in communications, and so on and so forth. These are all skills that are valuable in today's work environment that we can pick up. And they are not very expensive. So you can get a certificate training from our learning management system at portal.facilitymanagementcourses.com.ng for as low as 15,000, right? For as low as 15,000, you self-study, take the quizzes, and download your certificates of training, signed and fully endorsed, by Max-Migold Training Center. Max-Migold Training Center is the premium prime place for holding or taking facility management courses in Nigeria today. The FMMC diploma is a locally developed, credential for facility managers, and the only one in the African continent that has produce about 1,000 or more professionals who now have the FMD designation after their name, and they're all over the workplaces. If you talk to professional facility managers today in Nigeria, you will find that at least 1 in every 4 have gone through a training or the other from Max-Migold Limited or for myself, Paul Erubami, in different capacities. So you will always be assured of value. You will always be assured of consistent, recent updated information regarding the FM space if you affiliate with us. The FM diploma does not only give you a certificate, a designation, a qualification. It also gives you a lifetime mentorship and talent management for myself and the Max-Migold team, which means you will always be in work. You always have jobs. You will not ever be left alone to fend for yourself when it comes to managing your talents, managing your career as a talent and as an asset, and also giving you opportunities to grow in the industry, including networking opportunities. And the alumni is a very vibrant group. There you continue to learn, continue to network, and continue to share ideas with a very large, vibrant group of very intelligent and highly experienced past students who are now graduates and alumni and doing wonders in the business environments in Nigeria and all over the world. So you can't really be in the FM space, in the business environment in Nigeria and Africa, and not want to belong to this large, productive group who are the alumni. This is one of the biggest benefits of taking the FM Mastercraft diploma. Okay. We've talked about discounts, we've talked about flexible payment. All of it are available on our website, maxmigold.com/promo, which is the website or the web page for the FM Mastercraft diploma, the FMMC diploma that starts on Monday. Okay, so please head to that website, maxmigold.com/promo, and just read through the content, share the link with your friends, do your registration if you have not done so, and engage with us for your onboarding by Monday before the class starts. And also all through the month of May. So for those who are not able to join now, you're still free to join throughout the month of May. Okay, but it's important that you try to join as early as possible so you can have that one-on-one engagement with the lecturer. Not the same thing when lecturer is teaching while you are there, and you can ask questions, in case there's a multi issue about whatever he's teaching. In your head, you can get the result, which you cannot get from watching a video of the class. Of course, you can still ask questions in the group, but it's not the same thing. Okay. All right. So today we're talking safety. Safety. Facility management teams were basically involved in operations and maintenance. While a group of people in the business environment are directly involved in the construction, our job is to work with them to get the best value out in terms of construction materials and methods, and then take property for ongoing maintenance and operations. So we are exposed to almost, if not more, risk in terms of physical safety and security in working in our environments, we'll find ourselves. So creating a culture of safety in the FM team or whatever things you have means embedding safety as a core value, providing proactive risk management, open communication, and process of adherence to safety practices across all levels. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to create that culture, how to make sure that safety is something that we all own and work towards. So at the end of this 50 minutes, we'll be together. You should be able to understand the role of safety. When we say safety culture, what it means. We'll talk a bit about behaviors, systems, and policies that support workplace safety. And then we'll look at strategies to engage teams in proactive safety practices. promotes accountability, communication, and continuous improvement in safety. Foster a shared responsibility mindset to reduce accidents and risks. Because if you talk about safety, you're basically talking about removing some negative occurrences while bringing in more positive experiences to the users of these spaces. So what does culture of safety mean when it comes to working in the business environment and in the FM context? Prioritizing safety as a core value in all our operations. That's what it means. Prioritize safety as core value. Promote proactive risk identification. Whenever I'm talking about this topic, I always say, look, it's not important that you are not the one creating the risk or creating the exposure. It's important that you are able to identify proactively, well in advance, before any of such risks manifest themselves, because you want to prevent any negative occurrence, including accident prevention. And then when people can talk about situations freely, especially when it relates to safety, we say it's a culture of safety. When somebody can say, oh, that chair you're sitting on is not very good. You seem to be hanging precariously on that seat. And somebody says, oh, well, I'm okay. I know how to use it. I will not fall down. Now, moving that conversation from that prompt to a point where that person says, okay, I accept, I understand the risk. I will, fix the chair or not use it again, is what you are trying to do. You're trying to make it easy for everyone to talk about safety, hazards, security-related issues in our facility. And then empowering everyone to take responsibility for safe practices. So it's not, safety is not for a few people, it's not for people at certain positions, and not something that you do because someone else is coming. We take responsibility for safety. And then embed safety protocols and training into daily routines and decision making. This is very key for our operations. You have your daily toolbox talks, which focus on what needs to be done and how they will be done, how they'll be achieved, which is where you're building safety protocols in. Whatever you do, whether you're in the office or you're in the field, you need to make sure that safety is built into all of our activities. So a strong safety culture reduces incidents, accidents, right? So we talk about near misses, incidents, and accidents in a continuum. For you to avoid accidents ultimately, you need to reduce the number of incidences. And then for you to reduce the number of incidences, the number of near misses. So you have to also reduce the number of unsafe conditions. So between a UAUC to an accident, there were 3 steps in between, which is the we just talked about the near misses, talked about the incidents, and then we talked about the accidents. Now, so what you are trying to do is track a root cause approach, which means we are tracking and documenting unsafe acts and unsafe conditions. And that's the beginning of the culture of safety. We don't focus on the accidents, the ultimate danger, and say, oh, we are making sure it doesn't happen. It will happen if you ignore the downstream activities that leads to it, right? So these are the things that if you don't control them, they will lead to accidents in the end. Safe workplace enhances employee morale, productivity, and retention. Of course, nobody wants to think about a work environment that they got injured or still have a scar or a mark from. And if you have that fear of any kind of hazard in the workplace, you'll be watching your back more than getting the job done. Proactive safety practices ensure consistent regulatory compliance. Fewer accidents lead to lower costs from downtime, insurance, and liabilities. And this is something that is significant. Sometimes you probably think getting the job done is more important than getting it done safely. Because getting it done quickly, means you save time, you want to save costs, and so on and so forth. But if anything goes wrong in the bid to get it done quickly, and it's a lot of risk involved. If something goes wrong, you rewind yourself all the way back to before you. So in essence, you're gambling, trying to do something quickly and cheaply without thinking about the risk is more like gambling. Demonstrating safety commitments builds trust with stakeholders and regulators. Very important. So what are the benefits of a strong safety-oriented workplace? Of course, we can quickly rate with the obvious ones: reduce accidents, avoiding injuries, which helps promote employee well-being, improves productivity, of course, and then there's less disruption and downtime. Even unintended ones, they are reduced. They don't happen as often as in environments where nobody's focusing on safety. Lowers operational costs related to incidents, insurance, and legal issues, boosts employee morale and engagement through a sense of security, and enhances organizational reputation and compliance with safety standards. So when we talk safety in the workplace, think of it in terms of the strategic positioning for your organization. People love to work here, people love to associate, people love to feel that this is our place because of the safety culture that exists. So that's like a soft benefit. And then providing that kind of environment now looks like an ethical thing to do, like a moral, you use a moral justification, something like you're giving to the workers or giving to the communities. Now, but also think about the financial implication of not being safe. So apart from loss of productivity, there's also disruption and poor reliability if the environment is not safe. If somebody is injured, you can't make the person work. The person that is ill and out of circulation. If somebody is ill or something, person cannot get the job done. If somebody is traumatized in the workplace, the person may be sitting down there looking okay, but it's still not working, not productive. So there are huge losses that come from there. So for financial consideration, every organization, every leader, every manager should try and focus and ensure that safety is developed as a culture in the workplace. And then the final one, which is more like the warning aspect of it, if something serious happens because of your lack of, a sense of, your duty of care, and something serious happens, and an investigation ensues, and you don't find the right processes, you don't find the right instructions or guidelines for doing it safely and the precautions to ensure that that doesn't happen in the first place. And if that happens, that's when you now realize that there are penalties, legal penalties. A museum can be closed down. People can be actually arrested for, we might say, involuntary, harm done to assets and people because of this nonchalant or, lack of commitments to health and safety. So we must start from that point of, we love our people, we want them to be happy. So that's the ethical consideration. And then begin to see what financial benefits comes out of it. The poor maintenance, the poor planning that leads to disruptions and injuries is removed, and we're now more productive and now more sustainable as a business. And then begin to have the third level where you're thinking, if everything goes south, if something goes really bad, what will be the legal implication? Will the government, will the law catch up with me and make me regret not investing in health and safety? That's the worst thing to do. And that's not a reason to do health and safety. Okay? But it's like a minimum consideration. If we are not doing so well, we're making people so happy and so productive, work environment, we should at least hear the fact that something bad can happen and we could experience some negative outcomes from that. Okay, so it's very important that uh, we act with that kind of strategic level thinking. So every organization has its own goals and objectives. Whenever we talk about sustainability, health and safety, environmental awareness, and carbon footprint reduction, and so on and so forth, we recognize the fact that there will be uh, time spent creating the policies, procedures, and enforcing them, costs of experts, uh, costs of materials and equipment, and so on and so forth, and also the cost of time taken away from productive activities into health and safety, sustainability, environmental considerations. So whoever is trying to, propose improvements in any of these areas, especially the health and safety aspect, should think about how to create an alignment between what we would professionally see as professional considerations for trying to imbibe health and safety into what we do, and connecting that to the results the organization is trying to achieve. So in essence, if I know the results of my organization, the focus areas of my organization, the strategic objective of my organization, I want to use that as the anchor to sell health and safety. I want to make sure that it's an alignment. I want to make sure I can interpret what I'm trying to achieve with health and safety as a contributing factor to some of those strategic objectives. And this will require us to think more strategically, work with more data, uh, create analysis that that brings about that connection, and then engaging senior managers and leaders of organizations to buy into health and safety as a vehicle to achieving organizational goals. So we don't come about talking about health and safety, adoption, putting processes in place, and hiring a health and safety expert to work with the team to improve health and safety metrics by itself. We don't talk about it as something we want to do, like a project in itself. It's not an end in itself. Creating a connection between this health and safety focus and investment and what the organization is trying to achieve turns that health and safety to a vehicle that helps us achieve what we are trying to deploy as an organization, right? And so whatever considerations, whether it's ethical considerations, whether it's financial consideration, or the fear of penalties and legal, complications, all of them should be subordinated to the organization's objectives in terms of trying to sell health and safety process deployments. Okay. And this is how it now becomes a core aspect, a core part of the organization's mission. That's how safety can become a core part. That's how it can become a culture in the organization, because you are trying to build that culture, but you're at the bottom. As an FM, you're somewhere in between, whether you're in HSC, FM, HRO, program management, whatever role you have in the middle of that management chain. You need to let those at the top who make the final decisions regarding what you eventually do, what you spend money on, what you spend your time on. They must see the connection between what you are trying to show or prove what they are trying to achieve. And you must prove that health and safety can help achieve that, what the mission is trying to achieve. So that is what brings about integration. Because at that point, you're now beginning to see more interest from senior management. Now we need to see more approvals. Yes, you can do this. Yeah, the funds have been approved. Oh, yes, the commission has been signed. All kinds of things begin to come. You now see the body language changing in terms of their emphasis on health and safety. And then it's important that we communicate safety expectations clearly at all levels, include safety metrics in performance reviews and KPIs. And this is at all levels. So safety metrics being built into KPIs for vendors, all kinds of vendors, and for employees. We help them know that we see safety as a very important aspect of what we do. So that's why job descriptions will include safety line items and appraisals will include safety line items. And virtually everything we communicate between our organization and staff and organization and vendors will have the safety considerations embedded in it. That's how to build culture, because then you know you've convinced whoever is signing that document or working with you as a partner that health and safety is important to you. And the reports that they generate, while the work is ongoing, let's say a contract for facility management you're providing to a client, the reports you generate on a regular basis should not just be about how you solve the problems, reactive maintenance, maintain compliance to preventive maintenance and other statutory requirements, but also how you adhere to health and safety. So you're building those metrics into your report. No matter what the report, whether it's a daily highlight report, a weekly highlight report, or a monthly summary report of activities. So even the annual facility reports that you generate at the end of the year, there must be health and safety built into it. And when I say health and safety, I'm not talking about describing how we're very safe and there's no accident. No, it requires you to put certain specific numbers. This is the total man hours worked for this period. And though I try this period, this is the number of incidents, unsafe acts, accidents that we achieved, with the goal of trending each one to the desired destination. For example, unsafe acts and unsafe conditions, we pick them up as many as possible and want that number to keep increasing. The reason is that the more you report on safe acts and unsafe condition, the more consciousness you and the team members are of what can go wrong. So that number going up is a good thing. But then the incidents and accidents must be tending downwards, right? Because the lower those numbers, the better for the organization. So just know what those KPIs should be reading and how to gather the data. And then, of course, don't assume that people know all about safety and are committed to safety. No, you need to set up, orientation sessions, conversations with users. Building user groups is one. Toolbox talks with staff and vendors is another. Town hall meetings for the whole organization that happens once in a quarter or once or twice a year is another opportunity. Every opportunity you have should be used to train and give more orientation to individuals about health and safety in the organization, especially addressing certain specific aspects of health and safety that you might be having issues with, things that might be cropping up recently. And every time you reach any milestone, like something that used to be a problem, no longer being a problem for 1 month, celebrate it. And no occurrence for 3 months, celebrate it. No occurrence for 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, celebrate it. Let's say it be that we feel that we have done well and we are being recognized for doing well. Let's talk about a few risks that we can address, that we can look at. Slips, trips, and falls. This is what I consider the most common hazard, right? Sometimes signages are not clearly positioned, marked, or not understood. Lighting could be poor, especially when it comes to sites, environment, and you never can tell. Even something as simple as do not walk on the grass, for example, can save a lot of hazard. If you have soft areas, sandy area, probably grass over, that someone's shoes can sink in and probably cause a fall or trip. Just putting a sign that says walk along the paved path instead of walking on the grass for safety reasons can be a lot of good. So think about how to design signages that helps people see what you're communicating to them, because you will not be there all the time to escort or accompany anybody across your facility. So it's important that you have proper signage. It's also important that you have proper lighting, and then very good housekeeping. Housekeeping is one of the, I want to talk about housekeeping. We just think about cleaning. It's not just about cleaning. It's about organizing and ordering. Sometimes you see an obstruction on the ground. Somebody used a ladder, for example, to go into the roof. He's working in the roof. He doesn't have someone else, standing guard for him who could easily reposition that ladder in such a way that whoever is trying to come through will be able to come through. Or somebody goes, use that ladder, walk up there, comes down, tries to do one or two things, forgets to go and remove the ladder. It becomes a standing hazard for anybody coming through. There are so many disorderly environments we find ourselves, empty boxes in hallways and corridors, trip from extension boxes. You plug the box here, you run the cable across the room. It's not taped on the ground. No decent arrangement. People just toss the cable and trip. So there's so many things that goes into housekeeping. It's not just about cleaning. Orderly arrangement of things, removing whatever can become hazardous, and make sure everything is organized the way we expect to see. Now, to get this right, imagine for 1 second that everyone cannot see in the environment where you work. Let's assume everybody cannot see for just a moment. Can you confidently, make some movements to safety with your eyes closed or blindfolded? That's being able to visualize an orderly environment where if I was to get up from this desk and walk outside, I know where the table is, I know where the wall is, I know, the door. I can visualize it because there's no sudden, obstruction on my path. And then let's talk about fire. One of the common fire risks we have is electrical. Let's face it. So it's down to poor maintenance or things that should have been fixed, they just ignore. Again, poor maintenance. Sometimes overloading. You're bringing in new equipment into a certain circuit, a plug point, and you did not do a study on how much power it draws from that circuit and the fuses and protection that is put in there. And before you know what's happening, you start smelling something. Oh, something is smelling. Sometimes it's the kind of cabling that I use. The cable that is so light, 1.5 mm that is used for light fittings, LED for that matter. You go and use to install an oven. Then you plug it in and hope that everything will work fine. So fire risk inspections and all of that helps to prevent fire risk is very key. And then air quality, whether it's all kinds of air conditioning environments or even not air conditioned environment can pose poor air quality. Pollutants like paints, like volatile organic compounds, glues, things that come from factories, tear rubber smell that we put in our spaces, carpets, and so on and so forth. Ensure that spaces are properly fumigated, which means have a practice of opening windows on a daily basis. You don't open windows just to, because you don't have cooling, because you need air to cool yourself. You open windows to get rid of stale air that's being used up in the environment that you are in. Then, of course, security is a key aspect of this because security can be one of the strongest impacts to safety in the workplace if you don't take care to ensure that controls are in place. And so, for facility managers, we are responsible for everybody's safety. So it's important that you are conscious. You may not be able to solve all safety risks. I mean, think about it. Everything around us is a risk. If you drop your hand carelessly on the table, just unconsciously let it drop. The table is there to serve a purpose, but that hand dropping heavily, uncontrolled on that table can be an injury to the hand. So I'm not going to throw my table because the table is hard and my hands falling on it can create an injury, right? I won't do that. But I need to be conscious that there are sharp corners on this table, there are hard surfaces that someone can bump a hand, a fist, a knee or body against. And that applies to virtually everything. There are areas where you have stored paper products, for example, and then something is going on around that same place. Maybe you have a panel, you have electrical connections that could go hot and so on and so forth happening around that same space. the consciousness of where all the hazards around you are is what is key in dealing with these situations. All right, so document every potential hazard in your facility. If I store petrol somewhere, even if I store it properly in a metal container or glass container, I still need to indicate that there is a fire hazard, from that fuel that's stored there. If I put a generator somewhere and it generates a lot of noise, there's also a noise pollution that brings. If somebody has to sit around, walk around certain areas there, what should I do? Get earmuffs and so on. So the first thing is to identify that there's a noise pollution that can damage the ears. If the rain falls and you have those escape ladders that's external, that not sheltered or covered. If rain falls, there's water on that ladder. If somebody goes to use that step or ladder to try to come out of the building or go up the building, there's a risk of slip and fall and so on and so forth. So we just have to be very open-minded. There are hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of hazards and potential risks. We do that, we itemize them, and then we shortlist them. So we shorten it to the ones that are most critical. And that is discovered through recent incidents. Look at what our experience have been recently. Pick those that have happened recently. Pick those that you rank as, if they do occur, the risk could be very high, and add to this list, and then use that to discuss with users and say, we've identified, so number of hazards, but we're going to talk about just this 10 or this 20 being the most high risk and most prevalent among us. Everybody now, bringing their ideas on how those audit findings can be worked on, so that the risk does not become something that leads to serious injury to people. Implement risk assessment protocols. We just talked about how to evaluate risk. What's the probability of this event occurring? What's the severity? So probability or severity is the same thing as likely to probability or likely severity or impact. All right. You give these a rating, those two parameters a rating, and then you multiply them to know what the risk is. It is after you know what the risk is, you now organize the risk according to the highest to the lowest, and then decide what your risk tolerance will be and work on how to mitigate. So the strategies, like you want to avoid, which means you want to avoid certain activities because the risk is too high. You want to prevent. For some, the risk can be prevented by taking some action that prevents the risk from manifesting. You want to mitigate, which is another option. This prevention and mitigation are middle risk level considerations. So you can say, okay, you know what, this risk prevents, first we'll avoid it or do the activity is very important. Secondly, we will not invest in preventing it. But then thirdly, we want to invest in mitigating impact when it does happen. So that's it's important to understand that for some risk you want to prevent, which means you carry on your activities, but you want to go make sure the risk does not happen, or if it's going to happen, it's away from where you're working. And then mitigate is, if it does happen, you feel the impact, but this is what you have in place to ensure that you have like a buffer or shock absorber for that risk. That mitigates. The impact is now less on you, your people, and your operations. And then the final one is the tolerance, which means this risk is so low that I don't even need to make any plans. I don't need to abort the program I'm working on. I don't need to put any prevention or mitigation strategies in place. I just need to be able to, let it happen if it happens. It doesn't have any significant impact on my operations or my people. The final one, which is the fifth, the risk mitigation strategy, is the transfer. This is where you use certain contractual tools or mechanisms to move the risk to third parties, contracts with vendors, insurance, cover, bonds from banks and insurance organizations, all serve as a way to transfer the risk. And sometimes you might just have to consider those. It's important to have an open environment, open conversation around safety where everybody can talk and provide feedback. Let there not be any form of intimidation or being antagonistic against someone who is trying to be safety conscious. Because sometimes we see people who are safety conscious and we give them all kinds of names and brand them, and before long we box them into a corner and they no longer voice their concerns about safety. We shouldn't do that. Instead, we should encourage, safety conversations regularly. And this applies to everybody joining the team. We do orientation all the time on how the job should be done, but make sure that part of that orientation includes how to do it safely. Okay. Something about this orientation, if somebody joins the team and you're going to have you've done an orientation with this person, you've built that consciousness of safety in this person's mind, and person now understands how to work safely. And in that opportunity, you have to have maybe HSC meeting, weekly, monthly HSC meeting. New people are now in the team. Go over some of the things you've done before in these meetings. Bring back learning from incidents, for example, things that has happened, because sometimes old members of staff, they may outgrow the experience they had, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, when something happened. And they tend to forget the precautions that have been put in place. But if you put a new person into that team and you visit that incident and say, so and so time something like this happened, we don't want it to happen again. This is what we found was the root cause. These are what we've been doing since to ensure that it doesn't happen again. They learn and become, even more agile, more attentive to such symptoms wearing their heads in the future. And it's important to have health and safety distributed across the organization. It's not something that one person does. But I know some of them have the HSC team, it's just a manager with the whole team. They cannot do HSC, they cannot do safety for everybody. Their job is mostly legislative. They advise, they audit, they prescribe, they won't sanction when the time comes. But at the end of the day, the HSC responsibility lies in the hands of everybody. Okay. So to stimulate interest in working safely, put a system of rewards and penalties. People know that if they work safely, there will be some benefits, there will be some reward, there will be some praise, there will be some, just something intrinsic and extrinsic approaches to rewards can be applied. Intrinsic rewards are rewards that are inherent to the job, something that gives the person doing the job some sense of accomplishment, from praise, from recognition, from statistics about the person's capability and performance being made public. Those things can give a sense of accomplishment. And then you can also put in extrinsic things that come in because the person has worked well, promotions, award letters, cash bonuses, and other incentives. All of these things help people to think safely. But we don't want a situation where there will be an unhealthy competition because of the prize money. To make people now want to be setting traps for each other to see, who will fall for the traps and miss the mark so they can win the award. Make those awards more is right, so that people can watch, for themselves, watch out for each other. That becomes a better culture. When people know that if I fail to be safe, everybody in my team gets affected. If I'm very safe and also help every other person in my team to be safe, we all get rewarded for that effort. And then if you have a safety system in place already, every now and then just test to be sure it still works. People know how to move out when a fire breaks out, will everybody comply and move out completely? Or there'll be some people that will stay back, trying to catch up on some things and do some things. And at the end of the day, endanger the lives of those who will now try to come in to try and save them. Sometimes it is, because you've not done a simulation or drill, you don't know that certain parts of the building where people actually stay and work don't hear the alarm. There's a very secure environment in our workplaces that people could stay in there and won't hear the alarm. So sounding it, the simulation environment helps you, verify all of this. And there are physical infrastructure that needs to be put in place. A muster point, for example, where everybody evacuates and go out to direction of flow of traffic in case of a hazard. Setting basic effort that can be taken, like if there's a fire extinguisher and there's a fire, what should the fire look like for you to engage with it? What are the steps that you need to take? Having these conversations helps to broaden everybody's awareness of such health and safety considerations. All right, and then every time there is an unsafe condition, unsafe acts, especially the ones that lead to near misses and incidents and accidents, make sure it's documented for lessons learned. Let there be a review with everybody. It happens in one small part of the business. Let that information be shared across everywhere after investigation have settled and root cause analysis have been done. Okay, and then make sure that every reporting, we talked about this before, every reporting gathers information on health and safety. What is common now for most multinational organizations is requesting that you turn in your health and safety statistics as part of your submissions for technical submission for projects and contracts. And if you've not been tabulating these numbers, it becomes a challenge justifying your consideration for such bids. And every now and then to ensure that you can take a look at your safety procedures for changes, things that might have changed. You probably have a certain size of space, certain number of people involved in the work, work procedures being a particular way. And if there are changes in any of these things, then you need to look at the safety procedures again and revise them. Finally, safety is everybody's job. Safety is not supposed to be for any one particular person. It's supposed to become a culture that is driven by commitment from top management and both enforced and motivated down the ladder. So what does this mean? There should be a motivation, something that puts a reward or incentive, whether intrinsic or extrinsic. And then there should be some kind of penalty for non-compliance. And then there should be a process that guides how we respond to situations that can become unsafe, so you can act safely all the time. So finally, what we have covered, strong safety culture starts with leadership and is sustained by everyone. Fitness education and open communication are key to preventing incidents. Empowering teams through shared responsibility builds trust and accountability. Regular reviews and data-driven decisions ensure ongoing safety improvements, and creating a safe work environment is a collective effort that drives performance and well-being for everyone. So that's our lesson and our launch our session for today. As usual, if you are here and want to ask questions, you can just simply raise your hand and I will recognize you to ask questions, make comments. If you are in any of our groups, Telegram and and LinkedIn, and WhatsApp, even Facebook. You can ask questions there. If you're on this YouTube as well, you can ask questions and we will respond to you about everything that we cover in the lunch hour. Don't forget to like and share our content. We have hundreds of hours of quality training content on our YouTube channel, and we want you to engage with this content. They are very expensive content, very rich in knowledge and skills that you can use. So we encourage you to engage with them, share them, and let's see how the improvements in your work, in your life generally, can be achieved through engagement with quality advice from this content. So that's all for me today. So we'll meet again next week, Thursday. So thank you for being here. It's because of you I'm doing this, and I'll keep doing this for as long as I keep having you here. So bye-bye for now.